In 2009, Christopher Hitchens said of Islam, "Resist it whilst you still can, and before the right to complain is taken away from you, which will be the next thing. You will be told you can't complain because you're Islamophobic." That day has sadly arrived this week in Parliament, in the greatest parliament that Western liberal democracy has ever seen. Tahir Ali, a Labor MP, effectively called for blasphemy laws in the United Kingdom. We have that clip ready to go. Let's see it.
Last year, the United Nations Human Rights Council adopted a resolution condemning the desecration of religious texts, including the Quran. Will the Prime Minister commit to introducing measures to prohibit the desecration of all religious texts and the prophets of the Abrahamic religions?
We are, as I said before, Mr. Speaker, committed to tackling all forms of hatred and division, including, of course, Islamophobia in all of its forms.
He's so weak. Here's what Keir Starmer should have said to that suggestion, which should be an affront to anyone who cares about freedom. We live in a Western liberal democracy, the greatest Western liberal democracy that the world has seen. In a Western liberal democracy, you are free to criticise, you're free to challenge, you're free to question any religion or ideology. And make no mistake, it is an uncomfortable truth that Islam does have questions that it needs to answer, even if it is on the fringes of Islamic culture, whether it be about the treatment of women in fundamentalist Islamic communities, or indeed the treatment of minority groups more generally, or the disdain that the ideology has for the separation between church and state. This country has done more than any other to promote the ideology of free speech and individual liberty, and I will be damned if we sacrifice that at the altar of religious extremism. Unfortunately, the leader of this country did not do that.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely pathetic and a shameful response, actually, that he basically said, you know, we'll look into it, it's Islamophobia Awareness Month or whatever else. And actually, I don't know how you can be phobic against Islam. For everything you've just said, Will, would be deemed Islamophobic under the legislation forthcoming as it is under the Labour government. So anything that we've ever said about this issue, and I've had threats on the streets in London for talking about these issues, they will be given legal teeth to actually come after people.
But it's worse than that, isn't it? Because we actually have de facto blasphemy laws in this country, but only against
Well, they're not de facto,
Islam.
They are blasphemy
They're happening.
laws. You know?
We've got a teacher who is still in hiding, who has not been supported by this government or his Labour MP, but the Batley case. We had a mother whose autistic son scuffed a Quran in the playground and was paraded by the police in front of the local imams wearing a headscarf to apologise, pleading for her son's life. When it comes to Islam and the Quran, we already have those laws because everybody's too terrified of them to do anything. Say what you want about the Christian religion, and that's fine.
And that's not even to mention non-crime hate incidents, which have had police knocking at people's doors for tweets and Facebook posts. I mean, you're absolutely spot on, Will. We have got a problem in this country, and it's already here, let alone it being enshrined in its own legislation. It's a worrying development that our Parliament, as you said, a great Western liberal democracy, has moved so far away from that in a short space of time. We have a right to freedom of speech. It's a God-given right, and inherently these laws are anti-religious. If you believe that God gave every human the right to speak and say it's mine, then its criticism of religion is part of that.
Nikki, I mean, I have a non-crime hate incident against my name. Do you think that's right?
Well, I think I've got several. I don't pay any attention to them.
You might get some tonight.
I'll definitely be getting some tonight after this show. The thing that I would say, it's very important to distinguish between Islam and Islamism, and I know we say it all the time, but there is a clear-cut difference, and there are lots of British Muslims in this country that, you know, live peacefully, are not hateful, are not misogynistic, not any more than anybody else is in Britain anyway, because misogyny is a global problem and it's nothing to do with religion.
Sure, but they still call the imam when someone scuffs their Quran.
Some people do, Renee, not all British Muslims.
I take your point about the distinction, but we should be allowed to criticise both.
I also agree with that.
Should
but then
we be able to burn a Quran?
Absolutely you should. Just like you should be able to burn a Bible or War and Peace.
There's all sorts of things you can't burn under law, like flags.
You can burn flags.
Well,
You can't burn some flags.
Well, you can burn our flags.
You can burn our flags.
In this country.
But if you're Lawrence Fox, you can't.
Yeah, look,
you can't set fire to it.
I think you should be able to say whatever you want about any religion. I wouldn't, because actually I'd be respectful, and I'd hope that most people would. Because what's the point? It's not moral, but if I want to, I should be able to.
But we also create a very clear distinction between free speech and hate speech.
Right, brief.
The key distinction Renee's just made is the distinction between something which is morally wrong and illegal, and unfortunately we forgot about that distinction in society.
Well, and incites violence as a result. That's the key element of hate speech.
There's no evidence in 60 years that you say something. There's no evidence that you actually incite someone to
performative.
Not after the riots that took place. I don't think there was evidence that tweets got people on the streets. I just don't buy it.
No, I'm not talking about tweets, but I'm talking about people preaching. You know, there's loads of instances of people preaching hate and inciting people to go on and commit crimes.
The bar to incitement to violence is high, and it needs to be high.
It is high.
And we just let out the guy who actually was the one that indoctrinated the fella who did the Manchester Arena bombing.
And the probation board thought he was dangerous 2 months ago, but now they can do nothing.
We've gone mad.
Using the internet without a VPN is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. We want to help protect you. This video's sponsor, Private Internet Access, is the VPN to help keep you safe. Now, you might be asking, what is a VPN? Well, a virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and safeguards your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel. This way, it shields your digital life from the eyes of those that are looking to exploit your private information. Whenever you connect to the internet on a public Wi-Fi network, such as at airports, coffee shops, friends' houses, or even in your own home, your data is at risk of being stolen. Hackers that are connected to the same Wi-Fi network have the ability to steal your personal data with ease. T-Mobile reached a settlement this year with the US Federal Communications Commission after they suffered data breaches in 2021, 22, and 23. In 2023 alone, over 37 million customers' data was exposed. And it's not just hackers to be concerned about. Information can be censored. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news content that you love. Private Internet Access is available for all platforms: Windows, macOS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one Private Internet Access subscription to protect an unlimited number of devices at the same time. Plus, we've got a huge GB News discount. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get 83% off PIA. That is under £2 a month, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free. There's also a 30-day money-back guarantee. So head to piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
So this week we saw both Keir and Kemi hasten to give out a press conference about the abysmal migration figures that were released once again. The only reason that they looked decent was because they suddenly found another 150,000 people last year that they didn't know about. Then that made this year look not too bad, or at least slightly improved. So let's take both speeches with a pinch of salt and look at Kemi's to start with.
To talk about immigration, we need a new approach. The system is broken. We can't go on like this. We got it wrong, and we are going to learn. The Conservatives are going to develop a detailed plan for immigration to put before you at the next election, not the policies of Labour, which are going to fail.
Yeah, well, you know, it was pretty boring, but she did say a couple of things that were interesting. She said that it was time to tell the truth on immigration. Yes, it is time to tell the truth. And if this actually happens, it'll end. Because if they actually tell us who is committing crime in our country, who is at the top of our NHS waiting list, who's taking our school places so that we can't get our kids into the local school, people will not stand for it anymore. So please do tell the truth. She also said that our country is not a dormitory. It's not a hotel. It's a home. And I agree. And I don't invite strangers into my home and let them use my fridge or my heating or sleep in my bed. So she's right from that perspective. But, you know, don't want to state the obvious. They had 14 years to fix it. They broke it. But now Labour have taken over. And guess what? Since they took power, they have opened more asylum hotels than they've actually closed. And yet they said they were going to smash the gangs. They're now spending £4.2 million a day, £5 billion a year on migrant accommodation. That's your money and my money that they're choosing to spend that way, instead of spending it stopping pensioners freeze to death in their homes, stopping our veterans, 20,000 of them sleeping on our streets, and sending £11 billion to Africa for climate change and letting small businesses go out of business to raise that money. These are choices that our politicians are making with our money. Both of their press conferences were an exercise in damage limitation, nothing else. They're hoping that you will believe what they say to you rather than what you can see with your eyes. It's classic gaslighting. And according to Keir, they're going to fix the foundation, secure the borders and make Britain great again. They're not. It's a lie. Well, Keir, we're going to hold you to it, though, and we're going to watch you. I would say to you, the only way you're going to fix those foundations is to close the doors of Hotel Britain today and do not reopen them in this Parliament. Nikki, I bet you agree.
Absolutely not. Well, look, Keir Starmer has taken the issue head on this week, and he was unwavering in his commitment to stopping and cutting immigration, both illegal and legal.
But he wouldn't put a cap on it.
He was very clear about that. What's that, sorry?
He wouldn't put a cap on it. He wouldn't put a number.
Well, he wouldn't put a cap on it. He's wise not to, because we've still got loads of other issues going on. 30,000 vacancies in the NHS, and we still need to take on some skilled workers that may come from migrant visas.
Almost 1 million people came to the country, and you're telling me that we've got 30,000 vacancies.
I'm saying nursing vacancies.
But that maths doesn't make sense to
Nursing vacancies. We've actually got more staff vacancies. We've got about 100k. The reason I'm saying this is because there are certain instances where we will still need skilled migrants to come into this country. We still need foreign students to come into proper our universities, because we haven't found a solution to that problem.
Well, you know what the solution is to that?
Close them down.
Close them down. Contract the industry and just have British students in British universities.
And then contract all the universities.
The problem is, this is the argument that nobody has about immigration, is the more people you bring here, the more people you've got to have then support those people that you've brought here. So it's a self-perpetuating problem.
But that's already been shut down.
What's done in Hungary is that they've got a programme where they're trying to foster people having children. So if you're under the age of 28 and you've got a student loan and you've had 3 kids, they'll wipe your student loan off. We are investing in illegal migrants. They're investing in families. That's the difference.
But we've already said that we're going to cap that ability to bring in dependents. We've already talked about that. It's very clear under the law.
Well, the Tories did that.
Yes, but that's still the law as far as I understand it. That hasn't been changed.
38k though to be a taxpayer in this country, Nikki.
Yeah, right? But you don't tax paying is not the only contribution you make to society. There are lots of other ways you can contribute to society in Britain. By caring for people, by being a good citizen, by volunteering. You don't have to actually pay tax.
The thing is, coming over from Sudan and the like, or volunteering in the community.
Well, I don't know, Darren.
I've heard it all now. I really have. You are in cloud cuckoo land.
You've got to give people a chance to make a difference. And I say this, as you all will have heard me say it a million times, married to immigrants that came from Bangladesh and Burma under threat of war and all the rest of it, and they made incredible lives for themselves and massively contributed. And it took time. You can't expect someone that comes over here in a year to turn their lives around. But with support, they can.
The problem is that GDP per capita is going down, and it's not just a result of legal migration, because there's good cases for legal migration. It's illegal migrants that people are getting really upset about, because they are actually screwing the system, so to speak.
No, I'm about both.
Well, yeah, of course, legal migration is too high. Absolutely.
But they are separate issues, and we need to separate them out.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. Let's separate. The illegal migrant problem is a totally different issue, because we're having to pay billions of pounds for those people to look after them. It's coming out of your taxpayer money. It's coming out of your bill. Legal migrants can come here and start working and contributing to the economy. They cannot. And that is why people are so wound up.
Nikki, why is it the job of the UK to help foreign migrants turn their lives around?
Why is it the job of any human to help any other human?
No, the job
it's a question of humanity, Will. So it's about empathy. Because if you were having to flee here because of war and you had to land in wherever it was, you would want people to be kind and empathetic.
But they don't have to flee here because of war. They go through multiple safe countries. They don't need to flee here because of war.
But maybe they speak English. We've said this before.
So surely, Nikki, following on from what you say about compassion, surely that compassion should start at home.
Of course it could be. But Renee, we've got ways. We could put people to work much quicker than we do. We could process them much quicker.
I don't want those people working. No.
Why want
the people that live here working.
People, we've got a problem with worklessness in this country because people do not want to work.
But do you know why?
Do we not need some migrants to do jobs
Nikki,
that those people don't want to do?
They don't want to work because we pay them so poorly because we know we can pay migrants poorly.
No, that's not the only reason. That is not the only reason. It is an inability to want to work because it's too easy to take benefits.
All right, Will, did you want to come back?
I walked past from Paddington Station to the studio today, I think 5 or 6 people who were sleeping rough in the middle of winter. This has to start with helping people at home.
Yeah.
And we can't do that with the strain of 900,000 odd migrants coming over the border.
All right, thank you very much to the panel.